Hello and welcome to Alicia's View. My name is Alicia Crank and I'm your host. Today's topic is going to talk about hate crimes in Mountain View. This will probably be one of the heavier topics we talk about in the next few episodes, but I thought it was one that we really needed to address. And there will be a couple of people on the show today to talk about it from their point of view. So the first person I am happy to introduce is MAHDI, who is the new, one of the new HRC members, Human Relations Commission members here in the city of Mountain View. Hi, Michael.
How you doing, Alicia?
Good. So, Michael, you got my attention before you were even appointed. And I'll say that because I was happy to find out that you were someone that grew up in Detroit like I did and ran away like I did and decided that they wanted to, just be more than just a resident in Mountain View. So why don't you tell us, a little bit of background, growing up back in Detroit, what brought you out here and how did you eventually end up on the HRC?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, well, I grew up, born and raised in Detroit, like you said. And when I was in Detroit, I realized there was something more. There was something missing. There was always just that limited scope. Everybody in Detroit were so proud to be from Detroit. Yeah. And they thought they hit the jackpot. We're from Detroit, Michigan. I said, well, what about, we have a whole world, what about something else? And my friend said, oh, don't leave. This is our city, we grew up in Detroit. I said, well, there's so much more. So then I left, I went to college, went to Duke University, went to North Carolina, and I saw two different worlds. Yes. I said, wow, these people, I felt like I was in space. I said, these people live so differently than us. Their food, their culinary choices, just the way they interacted with people, very different, very cordial, the Southern living. Then I moved down to Miami. And that was a whole different world. Very, very different, very, very culturally different and diverse. Yeah. Just, I felt like in a different country. I was in a different country. Then after I left there, I ended up coming out here because my fiance went to Stanford to get her master's. Okay. And so came out here a year and a half ago. And so we moved to Mountain View, and I said, wow, I left Detroit. I left Miami, and I come out here to the middle of nowhere. That's how
it can feel like that, yeah.
So essentially, I said I had to find something where I can be active, where I can go and do something where I can really give my time to the community. So what I first started to do was go and play bingo at this Mountain View Senior Center. I was the bingo caller. Okay. So I would go, and every Friday we'd have a great time. Me and the bingo player, very competitive, just playing with them. And I said, wow, just dealing with different people. And the way they would just embrace me, they'll bring me gifts, and it's just the whole idea, just the human element. I said, wow, I need to go out and connect even more. So that's when I found a position at the Human Relations Commission. I said, wow, this would be great. Okay. Because I saw the inequities. I saw the people at the senior center who couldn't afford to get to the senior center, who paying for the VTA was expensive. Yeah. I'm saying, wow, if this is what we do to our seniors, wow, what'll happen when I get that age?
No, it's interesting, the way that you laid out your story is almost how mine was, in the sense of, when you live in Detroit, you are proud to be from Detroit, and even today, if people see me driving around in Mountain View, they know my car because the license plate says Detroiter, So it's something that I'm very, very proud of, and that's instilled in you, but there was that sense of, I want to do something different, that there's got to be more to the world than what we see in this large urban area. And I remember getting a little bit of persecution for wanting to move away, just to see. And I think initially I thought, I'm going to go away for 2 years, see what happens, and I'll come back and I can at least say that I did. And I moved to Mountain View, and it's been 13 years. Wow. So it was that same mindset of, I want to see what else is out there. I want to see what else, the world isn't just this. It's not literally just black and white. What else is there out there? So it's interesting that even in the year and a half that you were here, you felt this need to do something in the community. Now, I felt the same way too, and I didn't necessarily think senior center. When I did that, I just knew I wanted to do something diverse. And so you got appointed to the HRC, and that was at the end of December, so you started January of this year. Yes, ma'am. What's been going on in the HRC? Because I came off at that time, so I know that you guys have been keeping busy with some things. What have your experiences been coming on as the new Detroiter, as I'm probably sure that Cal is saying, something
so
like
everybody
that.
said, well, did Alicia, she must have told you to apply for this position. So it's very, very interesting. Before, when I first got to the HRC and I saw the diversity, I've always been, honestly, when people say diversity, I've always been skeptical.
Yeah.
You know, diversity, color is not diversity. Perspective, different perspectives, different, you know, beliefs. You know, as long as we're not monolithic, you know, because if we have everybody's different colors, but we all believe the same thing, you know. So when I got to the board and I saw that everybody had their own agenda, they said, you know, hey, we had a collective focus. So one issue, it was about seniors, about how they had the senior commission and how they said, you know, we want to really help the seniors out there. Another issue, we've spoken to so many different people, and just the idea of us being accountable. And when people say, well, what do you do on the Human Relations Commission? I say, I live. I do what I do every day. I go out and talk to people. And that's really what their emphasis is. They say, you know, we don't just have this whole platform of what we have to do. Just do what you already do.
And it's a unique perspective because I think with the other commissions, nothing against them, is that you do kind of have a more focused, this is what you do. Whereas the HRC is very kind of open-ended. So you can almost kind of say, you know, when an issue pops up, you can decide to take it on and not worry about whether or not it's in your purview, because everything has a human relations element to it.
That's right. Everything.
Yeah. So what have you guys been working on since you've been there? Outside of dealing with the senior task force, you guys have a big project coming up with CDBG, right?
Yeah. I have a big meeting coming up. Yeah, so basically various businesses and different people about HUD housing, a lot of information, a lot of things coming up. So,
so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So for those who are watching, for a long time, the HRC, no one really knew what we were. We went from who to, oh, they're the feel-good commission. They're the ones that, you know, wants everyone to be happy and united and, you know, hold hands and sing songs, to, oh my gosh, taser issues. So how would you define the HRC to people that are watching right now?
Broadly specific.
Okay.
Actually, very interesting. There was a man who came to one of our meetings, and he said, I heard that the HRC they were the commission that kept the police accountable. So I said, wow, that sounds new. That sounds new to me.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
When I asked everybody, what is our official purview? What do we do? Everybody says, well, you do what you do. So, well, what does that mean? I have not got a clear overview of what our position is. So I make my own.
Yeah.
So for me, the Human Relations Commission, and the reason why I joined it, was that we have disconnects. We have people who are in the community who feel voiceless, people who will never come to the community, who will never go to the government, who would never say, let me go walk on Castro Street, because they feel like they don't have a place here. We have other people who are unable to, whether that's seniors, whether that's some disability, whether that's some people who are illegal, who are here illegally. And so our position as Human Relations Commissioners, for me, what I believe the HRC should be, is for us to be mavens, for us to be connectors, for us to go to everybody, to speak to everybody and find, what's your issue? Because if you don't come to us, we need to come to you.
Okay. So I know you have you guys are starting to work on CDBG, and then something that's come up, unfortunately, in the past few months here in Mountain View are, you know, not a handful, but a couple of hate crimes that we've had in, you know, late 2008, early 2009, one happening just towards the end of February, you know, of this year. And I know that that's something that eventually the HRC will weigh in on and give some recommendations about. But as an individual commissioner, as a resident of Mountain View, as a new resident of Mountain View, what are your feelings or your take on what you've been hearing so far?
Well, with the case, and not to give too much detail, but with the case, when I first hear hate crime, you know, things bubble up inside of me. Growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and once again, everything we hear is a part of our totality, a part of us on a continuum. So growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and growing up in a predominantly black city, where you would not necessarily hear hate crime. But hate is there every day. You know, growing up in, you know, going down south, where you would noticeably see hate crimes, where you would see the white versus black and that whole pluralism. And then going to Miami, where you would deal with a whole different perspective of hate crimes, because people spoke different languages, had different cultures. Then coming out here to Mountain View, when we first got here, people introduced us that this is the place where everybody feels comfortable. Everybody should, Mountain View, the place of comfort. Everybody should feel, we love everybody. We're one of the greatest, most diversities in the Bay. And then to hear that hate crimes happen is it's shocking. It's shocking. So from a citizen standpoint, it's wow. My first reaction is, what do we do? You know, we can't just say, oh, this is just an isolated incident. No, there's never an isolated incident. anytime when something happens, there needs to be a response.
Yeah.
And so that's my first gumption. There needs to be a response.
Right.
So in Palo Alto, when a police chief said, if you see a black person, stop them and ask them why they're here. So what did I do the next day? After I heard that and read in the newspaper, I went to Palo Alto and I stood on the corner and I waited for a police officer to come up to me.
Did it happen?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't. But the whole point was the fact that she felt comfortable saying that.
Right.
And I said, wow, is that hate? And she said, oh, no, we just want to make everybody feel comfortable. And if we see somebody who looks out of place. And so when I hear about the hate crime here, it says, wow, we need to be vocal. We need to speak up. And we need to let people know we're not going to condone it with our silence.
Right. And no, I totally agree. And I think that, with the example of Palo Alto, what it made me think was that, is that hate crime versus hate speech? Or is it just, for lack of a better word, ignorance? Is there a level of, oh, it's okay for me to be able to say these things because I don't mean any type of individual harm, but this is what it is. And I think that that situation was handled in the best way that it could be. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
One of the things that I take a little bit of comfort in, if I can even say it that way, is that most of the crimes that have happened in Mountain View, I think there's been about 6 or 7 in as many years, that for the most part, they've been committed by people who don't live here.
Yes.
So they're people visiting our city. So there is that level of Mountain View is diverse and everyone loves it and is happy. And, you go downtown and you don't have to eat at the same place twice in like 6 months because there's such a variety and diversity, even in the establishments, even within the bar scene down there, that it attracts so many people. But with that comes who exactly are we attracting?
Yes.
So the fact that even with this recent case, they're neighbors, but not necessarily people that live in Mountain View, that at least I'm happy to know that I live in a community where we're not the ones, the residents are not the ones that are necessarily starting these things. But because it happens in our backyard, everyone is just going to automatically go, what the heck is going on in Mountain View?
Exactly.
So I just want to say that I'm really happy that, myself, the local Rotary Club, and a few other organizations are getting together to try to do a hate-free community workshop. And I believe the HRC is going to be on board with that in the near future because you haven't had your official meeting yet.
Perfect, that's it.
But I think that doing things like that to show that, we don't tolerate that stuff here. We're not just going to ignore it. This is what we're going to do. So hopefully I will see you there,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
as well as some other HRC commissioners there, which is happening on the 18th of March. So some people will see this before or after.
Exactly.
No, I'm sorry, it's the 25th
Okay.
of March. I'm getting my dates confused. But I'm looking forward to seeing, business owners and other people really come out and say, we are not going to, take care of, we're not going to take this. So I'm very happy that you're on the HRC. I know there are actually 3 new members on the commission, who is Chris Clark and Jennifer Fay. So I'm looking forward to actually working with you as a private citizen. So I can probably get away with a little bit more now that I don't have the commissioner tag on me anymore. But I thank you for being on the show. I'm glad that you were able to come out and talk with us. And I look forward to seeing what the HRC is going to do in the coming months and years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we will be right back after this. And welcome back to Alicia's View. Again, I'm your host, Alicia Crank. And my second guest this evening is a very special young man that I just got to meet just a few days ago at a speech contest here in Mountain View. And his name is Luis Hernandez. Hi, Luis.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You look very nice. I'm loving the purple. Really. That's my favorite color. Who told you?
I don't know.
Now, Luis, tell us a little bit about who you are. I know you're at Mountain View High School.
Well, I was born in Bronx, New York.
Ah, okay. My roommate will love that. She's from the Bronx.
And I moved to California when I was in 5th grade. And I went to Landels Elementary. And after that, I went to Herndon. And I'm now in Mountain View.
Obviously, you're a junior.
Yep.
Okay. So the way that we met actually was at a Mountain View Rotary Club meeting.
Yep.
Where they were doing their speech contest. Tell us how you got involved in being a part of that speech contest.
Well, I got the opportunity from my AVID teacher, and he thought it'd be interesting if I applied for it because I'm also in speech and debate at my school. And for the topic, I was interested because before I had written, it was from an essay I had written, and I saw that hate crimes were a constant thing that was coming up, especially in Mountain View. And for me, it was like, I had never seen something impact such a small city before. So I felt, wow, if I can write about this, why can't I tell more people about it? So I gave my same essay and just revised it a little. And it was a good experience.
Yeah, because I was pleasantly surprised, in a way, because as being one of the people that was helping out with the speech contest, we didn't have any idea who the students were, what school they were from, what their names are, or what their topics were. So, right before you guys started the speech, we were doing announcements and we were talking about, the hate crime workshop that we were sponsoring and planning. And then you got up and did a speech about, hate crimes. And I was like, okay, so maybe this is something that we really need to be talking about. And so, I enjoyed your speech, and it was nice to see somebody young, unprompted, to talk about it. But it was something that you obviously wanted to express. And did you win that speech contest?
I got first place.
And I didn't judge it, so I didn't. So it's not me. Tell me about your process in getting ready to write it. I mean, as far as what made you say this is what I really want to talk about. This is how I felt about this situation.
Yeah, especially in Mountain View, I hadn't really seen hate crimes that much before. In New York, I lived in a community that was mostly Hispanic, and we were aware that there were outside communities as well. But the crimes within our community would only be within our own type of people. So there weren't really outside communities that would influence on our own neighborhoods. But coming to Mountain View, I see that there's a lot of diverse groups here, and I saw that because hate crimes, we can't allow that for us, that things such as racism or whatever else can impact us to be a better community. And I started off first because I had heard about an incident at Graham.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. At Graham, there was 3 white males from Mount May High School, and they would constantly go to Graham Middle School. And they would shout racial slurs at a small group of Hispanic 6th graders. And it eventually led to the point where one of the members of the students from Mountain View pulled out a BB gun, but it appeared to be a real gun. And I thought about it, and I was like, wow, 6th graders. I mean, if I was in 6th grade, I'd be pretty scared.
Yeah, as an adult, I would be pretty scared. You don't know if something's, you're not going to take for granted whether or not it might be real or not. Yeah.
And just writing process was that I saw that because when an individual is attacked, especially in Mountain View, there's diverse communities, and that threatens all types of communities, especially in Mountain View. In my speech, I wrote about how there was also an incident at Landels Elementary, and people had written in the school walls, "No more aliens." And I recognize that Mountain View is a very diverse community, and there's a lot of aliens here as well. And they're normal people that we should accept, people that are no different from anybody else. But when somebody is there and just threatens a group of people, I think that's unacceptable because you're implying fear on people, and people can't live with fear and go through their daily activities.
And you're only a junior, huh?
Yeah.
So can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, sure.
And ask you to recite some of your award-winning speech that you gave at Rotary? Let's go for it.
On December 5th, 2008, 3 white male students from Mountain View High School were arrested on suspected hate crimes. They would constantly go to Graham Middle School and harass a small group of Hispanic sixth graders and shout racial slurs and threatened to kill them with what appeared to be a real gun. My dream is that local government, such as the City of Mountain View, should be capable of enforcing legislative laws that strengthen the city's hate crime punishment, as well as supporting programs that will help aid the victim so that future hate crimes will be prevented and the victim will be able to reestablish him or herself into the community.
You know what I think? I think you should take what you wrote, you should take that speech and you should send it to the Human Relations Commission. I think you should email it to your city council members because they represent you and let them know what you think.
Yeah.
Because I think we can forget that we do have an impact in our communities and they need to hear from young people such as yourself to say, this is how this is affecting me and this is what I would like to see done about it. So, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, I just want to be the person that people can look up to because people are aware that somebody's doing a change there.
Yeah.
That people are safe because someone's protecting their rights. And I always thought about becoming a lawyer, probably a human rights lawyer.
Okay. Is there such a thing as a human rights? I don't know if I've ever heard of one, but I could be completely wrong.
I mean,
is it someone that would? Is that like a regular defense lawyer, or is that someone that is specific with human rights?
I mean, I guess like a general lawyer would be as well, but I'd like to focus more on those type of problems, because I feel like those are one of the most important things here.
And I actually just realized there's probably someone that's watching tonight that is going to give me a phone call and yell at me because I actually know someone that does that. And actually, I will make sure to introduce you to him. His name is Jay Boyarsky, and he actually works for the county DA's office, and one of the areas that he works in is hate crimes. So I think he might be a great resource for you to be able to talk to and get some input on.
Okay.
So where do you want to go to college?
I'd like to either go to Santa Clara, and that's my goal school right now.
Yeah.
Schools I really like are also St. Mary's and Columbia University.
Okay. So you want to go some of everywhere, so you're not just limited to Northern California or anything like that. So what would your undergrad be as someone who wants to be a lawyer? As far as what your subject would be, what do you want your degree in?
I'd like to get some degrees in history and literature. Those are my favorite types of classes.
So as far as history is concerned, so is it more like American history, world history, history of a certain period?
I like American history and European history because they're kind of, I don't know, it's like both kind of influence each other.
So for someone who won first place in this speech contest and actually had an opportunity to talk to your father a little bit before the show, and he was saying how you go everywhere and going to these different competitions. Can you tell us about some of them?
Yeah, I'm part of my school's speech and debate, and it's an interesting thing because there's a lot of people there. Yeah. So
what's a lot?
Usually around like 200 to 400 people there.
Okay.
And it's I would say, diverse community, but it doesn't really emphasize on Hispanic people there.
Okay.
Like the last one I went to, I was 1 out of 400 maybe.
Really?
So it was good.
Stand out a little bit there?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So where do you go? Like, how do these competitions work? Does everyone that's in your speech and debate class go to each of these events, or do you have to kind of, get called into it? How does that work?
Well, our school has our big speech and debate, and I'm part of a certain group called Lincoln Douglas debate.
Okay, what's that? Tell us what that is.
It's more of a one-on-one debate, and you present your case, and your opponent presents their case, and you just have a topic that you're trying to, this isn't reasonable, or this is reasonable. Yeah. And you provide your point, and your opponent provides their point. So.
Are you more Lincoln or Douglas?
I don't know. They're both great people.
So how far do you travel just within the Bay Areas for
Yeah.
these competitions? Have you gone further than that?
Yeah, so far, it's only been within the Silicon Valley.
Okay.
But as you get better and better, you're capable of going out of state or.
So what's the big one that if you could do it, is there like this huge one that ends up somewhere in Washington, D.C., where President Obama is going to come and weigh in? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a tournament I've heard. It's called the Tournament of Champions.
Okay.
So it kind of has its own title there. And yeah, it's like only the best debaters from the whole nation actually go to that.
Okay.
And I plan on someday going there.
So is that something you can still do within your high school years, or is that something that... So senior year, you'll be there, and I can bring you back here, and you can have like gold medals and stuff.
Yep.
And you can show off and say that's what you're going to do.
That's my goal.
So how many other competitions are you in right now? I know you're still within the Rotary competition. Are there any other ones that are going on right now that you're...
Yeah, for speech and debate, I have 2 coming up so far.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Rotary speech, I still have to be talked back from the people because they haven't really given me a date yet.
Yeah, it's Los Altos.
Yeah.
That wasn't Mountain View, that was Los Altos. So, okay, so we got your Rotary speeches going on. You have your other ones. You're a junior in high school. You're trying to plot out, being a lawyer, what your future is. Any parting words that you want to leave for the audience as far as, again, your experiences with seeing what's happening with these hate crimes? What's the charge that you have for all of us in the community?
Well, I feel that people have to listen, especially to what's going on around here. Mm-hmm. I mean, people have jobs, and we understand that. They don't really have time to listen to what other people are there.
Yeah.
But hate crimes impact everyone, and they impact especially individuals.
Yeah.
And when an individual feels insecure, it impacts greater communities, and it just impacts everyone.
Yeah, and I can't say anything else beyond that. So thank you so much for being on the show, Luis, and thank everyone for watching the show this month, and I hope you enjoy it. Please make sure to check out the website, www.alicia-mv.com, and watch the show and leave your comments. And again, thank you for watching. Good night.